unforgettable impression.
Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India News Hour, India's voice to the world. I'm Unman Bhattacharya. Coming up in the next hour. West Asia situation escalates. Israel launches strikes in Lebanon. Hezbollah fires hundreds of rockets in Israel. Ukraine's president says negotiations are on with Saudi Arabia, Qatar, Turkey and Switzerland regarding a second peace summit. India's Prime Minister interacts with women entrepreneurs who are beneficiaries of the government's Lakhpati Didi scheme in Maharashtra, releases fresh financial assistance to them. And the largest ever Indian contingent of athletes departs for Paris Paralympics 2024. In one of the biggest clashes in more than 10 months of border warfare, Lebanon-based group Hezbollah launched hundreds of rockets and drones, while Israel's military said it struck Lebanon with around 100 jets. This was done to thwart a bigger attack, it said. Prime Minister Netanyahu also said that strikes against Hezbollah are not the end of the story.
In major escalation in Middle East, Lebanon-based group Hezbollah launched hundreds of rockets and drones at Israel early on Sunday, while Israel launched strikes in Lebanon. Missiles were visible curling up through the dawn sky as an air raid siren sounded in Israel and a distant blast lit the horizon. Hezbollah said it had fired 320 Katyusha rockets towards Israel and hit 11 military targets, while Israel's military said it struck Lebanon with around 100 jets to thwart a bigger attack.
Most of our activity at the moment is in southern Lebanon, but we will attack anywhere in Lebanon where there is a threat to the state of Israel.
Footage released by Israel's defense ministry showed Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu watching on as Israeli jets launched strikes in Lebanon early on Sunday. Netanyahu said that military intercepted all the drones that Hezbollah launched at a strategic target in central Israel. Netanyahu also said that Israel would take all measures necessary to defend itself.
What happened today is not the end of the story. Hezbollah tried to attack the state of Israel with rockets and drones early in the morning. We instructed the IDF to carry out a powerful preemptive strike to remove the threat. The IDF destroyed thousands of short-range rockets. All of them were intended to harm our citizens and our forces in the Galilee. In addition, the IDF intercepted all the UAVs that Hezbollah launched at a strategic target in the center of the country.
Israel's army also released video, it said, showed its chief of staff, Herzi Halevi, overseeing military operations from an underground operations center in Tel Aviv on Sunday. On the other hand, in Lebanon, cabinet ministers and officials held a session of the National Emergency Committee in Beirut at caretaker Prime Minister Najib Mikati's house. Lebanon's caretaker economy minister Amin Salam said that the situation now relied on outcome of Gaza ceasefire talks in Cairo. Expectations of an escalation between the two sides had risen since a missile strike in the Israeli-occupied Golan Heights last month, and Israeli military assassinated Shukr in Beirut in response. Latest escalation between Hezbollah and Israel caused delay of flights in the region. Departing flights at Israel's Korean airport were delayed on Sunday morning, stranding worried travelers amidst ongoing rocket barrages being fired by Hezbollah. While travelers at Beirut Rafik Hariri Airport found themselves stranded on Sunday as some flights were cancelled. Air France too has cancelled its flights to Tel Aviv and Beirut until at least Monday. Israel's biggest municipality shut down its Mediterranean beaches as tourists and local residents said they were taking precautions in the wake of evolving situation in the region. Sunday's strikes came as negotiators were meeting in Cairo in a last-ditch effort to conclude a halt to the fighting in Gaza. Fuzail Ahmed reporting for DD India.
DD India's Sarah Coates now joins us live from Tel Aviv. Sarah, was damage caused by Hezbollah strikes largely limited in Israel?
Hello there, Munmun. Well, that is yet to be seen. The Israeli military has remained very, very tight-lipped. We have heard, of course, from the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. He's been holding very high-level security briefings with the military's top brass throughout the day. He says that this is not the end of the story. Now, just a few minutes ago, the head of Hezbollah, Hassan Nasrallah, he wrapped up a press conference. I'll bring you a few of those takeaways. He said that we planned to hit key IDF intelligence bases near Tel Aviv, but delayed the attack to give Gaza talks a chance, adding that Katyusha rockets were fired to distract Israel's Iron Dome and other defense systems to allow for drones to enter Israeli airspace. Now, we do have an update in terms of casualties. The Israeli military has announced that a naval ship that was sitting just off the coast, a little further north than where I'm standing now, that it was hit. It's unclear whether this was a part of a drone or whether this was shrapnel from the Iron Dome missile defense system, but it has resulted in the death of one soldier in his 20s. So certainly this is an ongoing situation. People here on the ground are really on a state of high alert. And while this 48-hour period of further sort of alertness has now been dropped for many parts of the country, including here in Tel Aviv, people are being warned to remain very, very close to shelter and to be alert. So it certainly is a very difficult time on the ground for many people. We do know that universities have also cancelled exams. Many international flights have stopped flying in and out of Tel Aviv and also in and out of Beirut. And we can expect many more assessments to be going forward between Netanyahu and, of course, the Defence Minister Yoav Gallant in the coming hours.
Also, Sarah, could ceasefire talks in Cairo lower the tensions, or could hostilities further escalate, possibly even drawing in other players of the region?
Well, that was really the hope here, that if this ceasefire and hostage deal finally made it across the line after months and months of negotiations, that this could potentially bring down tensions in other parts of the region. Now, reports are coming in that an Israeli delegation is on the ground in Cairo, but in saying that, although Hamas didn't actually send a delegation to negotiate directly, these have always been indirect talks, that these Hamas members have now left the Egyptian capital. So certainly, while there was a lot of hope pinned on this ceasefire, really there is not a lot of optimism. And there is one main sticking point that is causing a lot of frustration here, and this is Netanyahu's refusal to remove troops from the so-called Philadelphia corridor. This is this narrow strip of land that separates Gaza and Egypt. And Netanyahu says he simply will not do this because if he removes these troops from that area, then weapons smuggling can once again pick up again from Egypt into Gaza. And this has been one of the conditions that we've been hearing time and time again from Hamas, that there must be a full withdrawal of Israeli forces from Gaza for this ceasefire to actually happen. So certainly a very tough task for these mediators who've really been trying extremely hard for these last few months to try and get this deal over the line, because we also do need to remember there are more than 100 Israeli hostages still being held in the Strip, and their relatives are desperate. They say this is potentially the last chance to get their loved ones out, saying time is ticking.
We'll leave it at that. Sarah Coates reporting from Tel Aviv. Moving on, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has said that negotiations were ongoing with Saudi Arabia, Qatar, Turkey and Switzerland regarding the second summit on peace. In a conversation with Indian journalists shared on his social media on Sunday, Zelensky also said he had told India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi that he would support India hosting the second summit on peace, as Kyiv hopes to find a host among the countries in the global south. The Ukrainian president added that he discussed all of the points from the communique and previous peace summit during the meeting with PM Modi in Kiev on Friday. Zelensky also said he wants to boost trade with India, saying he was interested in increasing goods turnover by 3 to 5 times. As the Russia-Ukraine conflict entered a 912th day on Sunday, Ukrainian shelling killed 6 people in Russia's border region of Belgorod on Sunday, while a Russian strike hit a hotel in eastern Ukraine, leaving 1 Reuters journalist missing and another 2 hospitalized. In a statement, the news agency said that a hotel where a 6-person Reuters crew was staying was hit by a strike. On the other hand, the Russian Defense Ministry did not immediately respond to a request for comment. Meanwhile, the city of Belgorod and its districts remained on high alert. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has touted a newly developed Ukrainian drone missile that he said would take the war back to Russia. Meanwhile, Russia's defense ministry has said that it sent more artillery to the Kursk region, where Russian forces are fighting thousands of Ukrainian troops who pierced the Russian border on the 6th of August. Russia also launched several missiles and drones overnight, targeting northern and eastern Ukraine, with air defense systems destroying most of the weapons before they reached their targets. DD India's Dasha Chernyshyova now joins us live from Moscow for more. Dasha, what more do we know about the latest missile and drone strikes by Russia targeting parts of northern and eastern Ukraine?
Well, Russia says it continues its so-called special military operation in Ukraine, and for that, Russia is targeting the military infrastructure of the Ukrainian armed forces in all parts of the country. We understand that over the past 24 hours, 1,900 Ukrainian military were liquidated, as well as 9 tanks, according to the recent briefing by the Russian MOD. We also understand that the Russian Ministry of Defense has been striking the Ukrainian positions and the places of where the foreign mercenaries were deployed in Ukraine, and the Russian Ministry of Defense has also been saying that it was pressing the Ukrainian troops in a number of directions, making certain gains in the Donbas area. So certainly the operation is ongoing, with Russia saying that it is going to crush the Ukrainian armed forces, including in the Kursk region, where the Ukrainian incursion has lasted for several days already. On this direction, we understand Moscow is striking the Ukrainian positions both inside Russia and outside the Russian borders, from where the reinforcements to the Ukrainian military are coming.
Also, Dasha, Reuters says after a missile strike on Saturday on Hotel Sapphire in the eastern Ukrainian city of Kramatorsk, 1 of its journalists is missing. Now, has Russia acknowledged this attack, 1? And 2, is there any discourse on protecting journalists in war zones, as under the Vienna Convention we know that they enjoy the same protection as civilians? Geneva Convention, I beg your pardon.
Well, what we have heard from the Russian Ministry of Defense is that Moscow has struck the places of the deployment of the foreign mercenaries in Ukraine. So no direct comment on this particular attack has been made so far by the Russian Ministry of Defense. However, we also understand that Moscow is concerned about the work of journalists in the area of the so-called special military operation, but obviously from a different footing, suggesting that it is Ukraine that is deliberately targeting the Russian journalists who work in the area of the operation. And actually, we have seen Russian human rights ombudsman Tatiana Moskalkova earlier this summer asking the OSCE, the UN, as well as UNESCO and the Committee for the Protection of Journalists after the death of the Russian journalists in the area of the operation. So the attention to the work of journalists in the area of the operation is always very high.
Also, Dasha, Zelensky has spoken to Indian journalists on how negotiations, he said, were on with Saudi Arabia, Qatar, Turkey and Switzerland regarding a second peace summit. Now, Russia, we know, was not invited to the first one. Do you know of any feelers being sent to it for the second one?
Well, it's a very interesting question because a lot has changed. 3 weeks ago, as Ukraine launched its offensive and incursion of Russia's Kursk region, which Russia calls as terrorist activities because it targets the civilian population. Now, we know when the first summit was held, Russia was not invited, and Moscow has repeatedly said that no peace summit is successful without Russia's participation in it. However, Moscow was also saying that there were no sane ideas brought to the table during the last summit because all they were not taking into account Russia's interests. So Russia was saying that if you want to have a peace summit, you have to invite Moscow and you have to listen to Russian concerns. And then President Vladimir Putin has stepped in, suggesting that there was a way forward. In the beginning of summer, he was actually the one who has once again reiterated that the peace could be possible as a result of the negotiations. He has outlined several conditions for Ukraine. Ukraine has rejected those. But now, after Ukraine launched its incursion of Russia's Kursk region, the officials here insist that any possibility of holding negotiations with the Ukrainian authorities at this moment is simply impossible.
Dasha Cherneshova reporting from Moscow. Time for us to take a breather on DD India News Hour. Coming up after that, surge in donations for Democrat presidential nominee Kamala Harris. NASA decides to keep astronauts Sunita Williams and Butch Wilmore in space until February. And 2 bus accidents in Pakistan kill at least 44. Welcome back. You're watching DD India News Hour with me, Munmun Bhattacharya. Democrat Kamala Harris has raised $540 million in little more than a month since she began her race for U.S. presidency. With a surge of donations flowing in during the Democratic National Convention last week. A memo released by Harris's campaign manager has said the $540 million raised included $82 million that came in during convention week and is a sign of Democratic enthusiasm for her candidacy. Vice President Harris became a candidate for president on the 21st of July when President Joe Biden stepped aside under pressure from fellow Democrats concerned about his cognitive ability after he stumbled during a 27th June debate against Republican Donald Trump. The American Space Agency NASA has decided to keep astronauts Sunita Williams and Butch Wilmore in space until February of next year. According to the agency, they will not bring the astronauts back to Earth using Boeing's troubled new capsule. DD India's Mihir Maikuri has more.
What was supposed to be a week-long test flight for NASA astronauts Sunita Williams and Barry Wilmore has turned into a months-long stay. The duo, who have been stranded at the International Space Station since June due to technical issues including a failure of the reaction control thrusters during Starliner's initial docking attempt, will now remain in orbit until February of next year. According to NASA, their return to Earth will be on a SpaceX crewed Dragon flight.
NASA has decided that Butch and Sunny will return with Crew 9 next February, and that Starliner will return uncrewed, and the specifics and the schedule will be discussed momentarily.
Prioritizing the safety of its astronauts, NASA administrator has supported the decision to keep the astronauts aboard the International Space Station. Due to the significant risk involved, they will not return on Boeing's Starliner, the craft that brought them to the station.
Space flight is risky, even at its safest, and even at its most routine. And a test flight by nature is neither safe nor routine. And so the decision to keep Butch and Sonny aboard the International Space Station and bring the Boeing Starliner home uncrewed is a result of a commitment to safety. Our core value is safety, and it is our North Star.
This announcement comes after an agency-level review on Saturday that included NASA's administrator, Bill Nelson. The agency also confirmed that the astronauts support the decision.
I talked with Butch and Sonny both yesterday and today. They support the agency's decision fully, and they're ready to continue this mission on board ISS as members of the Expedition 71 crew.
NASA's decision to tap Boeing's top space rival SpaceX for the return of its astronauts is one of the agency's most significant moves in years. Mihir Makuri reporting for Didi India.
A suspect in German police custody following a stabbing rampage in the city of Solingen that killed 3 people and injured 8 is a 26-year-old Syrian man, authorities say, as they looked into his possible links with Islamic State. The incident, along with the terror group's claim of responsibility, sparked concern among some politicians who urged enhanced security, tighter curbs on weapons, stiffer punishment for violent crimes, and limits to immigration. Germany's Federal Public Prosecutor's Office took over the investigation into the attack that occurred during a festival on Friday evening in the Fraunhof, where live bands were playing to celebrate Solingen's 650-year history. Mourners have made a makeshift memorial near the scene. In Pakistan, at least 44 people were killed in 2 separate bus accidents on Sunday, including 12 pilgrims who had been prevented from crossing into Iran. At least 22 people were killed when the bus they were traveling in plunged into a ravine near the town of Azad Patan. In a separate incident, 12 men died when their bus crashed into a ravine on the Makran coastal highway in Balochistan after being prevented from crossing into Iran. Tens of thousands of Rohingya refugees rallied in camps in Bangladesh on Sunday on the 7th anniversary of the military crackdown that forced them to flee, demanding an end to violence and safe return to Myanmar. More than 1 million Rohingyas live in squalid camps in southern Bangladesh with little prospect of returning home, where they are mostly denied citizenship and other rights. Thousands more are believed to have fled Myanmar's Rakhine state in recent weeks as fighting escalates between troops of the ruling junta and the Arakan army, the powerful ethnic militia. Refugees, from children to the elderly, waved placards and chanted slogans in the camps in Cox's Bazar, many wearing ribbons bearing the words Rohingya Genocide Remembrance. Back home, Prime Minister Narendra Modi was in Jalgaon in the Indian state of Maharashtra on Sunday, where he handed over certificates to 1.1 million new Lakhpati Didis, or Indian women entrepreneurs earning 100,000 Indian rupees annually.
Putting forth a new example of women's empowerment, the dream of becoming financially independent through Lakhpati Didi scheme is now turning into reality. On Sunday, India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi handed out certificates and felicitated 1.1 million new financially independent women known as Lakhpati Didis in the western state of Maharashtra. The scheme aims to provide financial assistance to women entrepreneurs and help them achieve financial independence.
यहां इस मैदान में मौजूद हर बहन बेटी अच्छी तरह जानती है कि जब वो कमाने लगती है तो कैसे उसका अधिकार बढ़ जाता है, घर परिवार में उसका सम्मान बढ़ जाता है। जब किसी बहन की कमाई बढ़ती है तो परिवार के पास खर्चने के लिए पैसे भी ज्यादा जुड़ते हैं। यानी एक बहन का भी लखपति दीदी बनना पूरे परिवार का भाग्य बदल रहा है।
PM Modi also released a revolving fund of $298 million benefiting about 4.8 million members of self-help groups. Prime Minister Modi noted that Maharashtra's glorious culture is known not only in India but also around the world. He also touched upon Kolhapur's connection with Poland.
पोलैंड के लोग महाराष्ट्र के लोगों का बहुत सम्मान करते हैं। वहां की राजधानी में एक कोल्हापुर मेमोरियल है। दूसरे विश्व युद्ध के दौरान पोलैंड की हजारों माताओं और बच्चों को कोल्हापुर के राज परिवार ने शरण दी थी। जब वहां मैं महाराष्ट्र के लोगों के सेवा भाव, मानवता प्रेम की प्रशंसा सुन रहा था तो मेरा माथा गर्व से ऊंचा हो रहा था।
Prime Minister also paid condolences to the victims of the bus accident tragedy in Nepal, where several people from Jalgaon lost their lives. With Shishir Sheller, Bureau Report, DD India.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi also addressed the concluding ceremony of the Platinum Jubilee celebrations of the Rajasthan High Court. He said national unity is the foundational stone of India's judicial system, and solidifying it will further strengthen the nation and its systems.
Delivering justice since 1949, the Rajasthan High Court's journey has been glorious and inspiring. Participating in the Platinum Jubilee celebrations, India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi called for collective responsibility to make justice simple and clear. PM added that national unity is the fundamental stone of India's judicial system and also stressed that government had repealed many irrelevant colonial laws.
हमने पूरी तरह से अप्रासंगिक हो चुके सैकड़ों कॉलोनियल कानूनों को रद्द किया है। आजादी के इतने दशक बाद गुलामी की मानसिकता से उभरते हुए देश ने इंडियन पिनल कोड की जगह भारतीय न्याय संहिता को एडॉप्ट किया है।
Prime Minister Narendra Modi inaugurated the Museum of the Rajasthan High Court at its Platinum Jubilee celebrations in Jodhpur and launched an IT platform that was inspired by Digital India mission. Prime Minister highlighted the important role of technology in revolutionizing the India's judicial system.
यहाँ सैकड़ों अदालतें कंप्यूटराइज हो चुकी है। पेपरलेस कोर्ट्स, ई-फाइलिंग, समन के लिए इलेक्ट्रॉनिक सर्विस, वर्चुअल हियरिंग की व्यवस्था, ये कोई सामान्य बदलाव नहीं है। हम एक सामान्य नागरिक के दृष्टिकोण से सोचें तो दशकों से हमारे यहां कोर्ट के आगे चक्कर शब्द मैंडेटरी हो गया था। आज दशकों बाद उस सामान्य नागरिक की पीड़ा को खत्म करने, उस चक्कर को खत्म करने के लिए देश ने प्रभावी कदम उठाए हैं।
PM also stressed that judiciary has consistently played the moral responsibility of being vigilant and active on national issues that gives easy access to justice in a developed nation. Upon reaching Jodhpur, people gave a grand welcome to Prime Minister Narendra Modi. With Vikas Sarthi, Bureau Report, DD India.
Time for us to take another break on DD India News Hour. Coming up after that, analysis on the escalation of hostilities between Israel and Hezbollah amid fears of the conflict widening. Indian ministers to participate in the second round of India-Singapore Ministerial Roundtable on Monday. And catastrophic floods in Bangladesh, Indonesia and Thailand.
Complex issues, hidden agendas, twists and turns, strategic games. We think all dots are linked. We just need to connect them. Join me every week as I connect the dots to unravel hidden designs in statecraft, mysteries, and decode issues that matter to you. Watch Connecting the Dots with me at these times on DD India.
Welcome back to discuss the escalation of hostilities between Israel and Hezbollah. We are now joined by Anil Kumar Trigunayat, former Indian ambassador. Ambassador, pleasure to have you on DD India. Hezbollah says Sunday's attack was the first phase of its response to the Israeli assassination of its commander, Fouad Shukr, in a strike in Beirut last month. Also, Netanyahu says that this is not the end of the story. An Iranian response is anticipated too. So do you expect that the latest escalation could lead to a wider regional war?
Well, as you know, that there have been efforts to somehow contain the escalation of this conflict by all sides. But the two major actors, especially Israel and Hamas, have not helped in that regard. And this is unfortunately the situation after 10 months that thousands of people have been killed. A large number have been displaced on both sides. And the attack and the killing of Fouad Shukr, who was a Hezbollah commander, deputy commander, and the leader of Hamas in Iran, naturally increased the chances of further escalation. So far, it seems that Israel directly is following some kind of a strategic patience and counting on the ceasefire whose talks are currently going on in Egypt, in Cairo. But chances there are also very slim. Of course, the Hamas and Israel both are participating along with the US, Qatar, and Egypt there. But at the same time, after these killings, it was expected and it has been announced and claimed by the Hezbollah, the Hamas, the Houthis, and Iran that they will retaliate these killings. And therefore, it is expected, and the timing nobody knows when, but Hezbollah has started in the morning, if you know, that today morning that about 100 Israeli fighters attacked in southern Lebanon, where Hezbollah had hideouts, killing several people there. And in response to that, today, Hezbollah also launched various drones and missiles, about 300 odd of them, trying to overpower the Iron Dome that protects Israel, and therefore causing a lot of mayhem within the Israeli also. It's also a small country, as you know. So there is a chance that escalation can happen, but it could only be contained if there is some kind of a ceasefire that happens. Otherwise, it appears that all the actors in this are trigger happy.
Okay, we'll take that further. But before that, Israel's military says it is ready to fight a war on two fronts, in Gaza and on its northern border with Lebanon. But since Hezbollah is a far more formidable force than Hamas, after almost 1 year into this conflict in Gaza, do you think there is appetite in Israel for another war?
Well, the Israelis, one thing you'll have to grant them, that when they consider it and project it as something of an existential issue for Israel, I think the Jews all around the world unite and support that, including the Israelis themselves. But there is a tremendous discontent against Netanyahu's leadership As you see, every now and then, even today, thousands of people have been protesting for release of the 100-odd hostages which continue to remain with Hamas. And this is not going to be a war only between Israel and Hezbollah. Hamas question has still not been sorted out fully. We know that there is Houthis are on the other hand are also trying, and they even bankrupted the Eilat port because of the Red Sea attacks of Israel. Then you have Kataib Hezbollah in Iraq, which will also come into picture, even if Iran does not directly participate, and eventually will come into that. So it is not going to remain a war which is contained only on two fronts. It could be a multi-front war in which Israel will get dragged, and it will be very difficult for them to overpower each of their adversaries in this. So therefore, in my view, while they continue to have this aggressive posturing, it is also important that some kind of a ceasefire is achieved, an eventual solution, a two-state solution is arrived at. Whenever it is possible for the Americans to spare some time and genuine efforts are made.
So taking that point further, do you think that there is still hope of a ceasefire deal, or is hope dying?
Well, the problem is that both Hamas and Netanyahu keep on changing their goalposts in the discussions. They agree to something. Biden had agreed to one deal after discussing with the Israelis. Hamas had accepted that. And thereafter, the Israelis went back. They wanted more, that they want to control the Philadelphia corridor. They want to have more towers, which Egyptians have not agreed to, watchtowers. And so, on the other hand, the Hamas wants that there should be a complete ceasefire, that there should be a permanent sort of a ceasefire, and also that there should be no killing of their leaders. And the current leader, Yahya Sinwar, as far as the reports go, is also trying to save himself, because he is one of the major leaders left now in the bargain. So I think that they will continue to, and I would be happy if it happens, but I doubt very much that this ceasefire will have any results.
Also, Ambassador, in the long term, do you see anything changing?
Well, it all depends on, I have always maintained that if the United States is really willing to push it, and the Arab countries push Hamas and all other these non-state actors into compliance, then it is possible. But the solution of this lies in having a two-state solution which should be equitable. And then only you can have some kind of, otherwise we'll see the repeat of it. You have seen this is the fifth war between Israel and Hamas already since 2008. There have been 3 major wars or 4 major wars between Arab countries and Israel until 1973. So I think that this is something that has the root cause of all these is the problem of Palestine that needs to be resolved somehow or the other by the international community. And in that, I think the biggest onus lies on the United States and its willingness to do that.
Also, Ambassador, towards the end, could both sides be waiting for the next US president to come in? Can the election outcome change the course in any way in the short term?
Well, I think that, we have seen the Biden administration has been very much engaged. And this was 10 times Secretary Blinken has been in the region trying to work out on some deal. Now today, the CIA director is there. So they are very much trying to. But it appears from this that either the Netanyahu considers it a lame duck government and hoping for President Trump to come, who will unflinchingly support them. On the other hand, if Kamala Harris comes, then we might see some kind of a continuation of the current policy. But it is seemingly the influence, I think that it looks like as if Israel is running the US foreign policy rather than the other way around.
Okay, we'll leave it at that. Ambassador Trigunaya, thank you so much for sharing your views on this subject.
Thank you. Thank you.
Moving on, India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi shared his thoughts in the 113th episode of his monthly radio program Mann Ki Baat on Sunday. Prime Minister spoke about a number of issues starting from space to politics to animal-human bonding. Prime Minister urged the youth to connect with the political system.
इस साल मैंने लाल किले से बिना पॉलिटिकल बैकग्राउंड वाले 1 लाख युवाओं को पॉलिटिकल सिस्टम से जोड़ने का आह्वान किया है। मेरी इस बात पर जबरदस्त प्रतिक्रिया हुई है। इससे पता चलता है कि कितनी बड़ी संख्या में हमारे युवा राजनीति में आने को तैयार बैठे हैं। बस उन्हें सही मौके और सही मार्गदर्शन की तलाश है।
Giving topmost priority to children's nutrition, Prime Minister urged the entire nation to focus on nutrition throughout the year and celebrate it for a month.
परिवार, हमारा समाज और हमारा देश और इन सब का भविष्य हमारे बच्चों की सेहत पर निर्भर है और बच्चों की अच्छी सेहत के लिए जरूरी है कि उन्हें सही पोषण मिलता रहे। बच्चों का न्यूट्रिशन देश की प्राथमिकता है। वैसे तो उनके पोषण पर पूरे साल हमारा ध्यान रहता है, लेकिन एक महीना देश इस पर विशेष फोकस करता है। इसके लिए हर साल 1 सितंबर से 30 सितंबर के बीच पोषण माह मनाया जाता है। पिछले वर्ष पोषण अभियान को नई शिक्षा नीति से भी जोड़ा गया है। पोषण भी पढ़ाई भी, इस अभियान के द्वारा बच्चों के संतुलित विकास पर फोकस किया गया है।
The Prime Minister also touched upon the issue of recycling and asked countrymen to contribute their part to save the environment.
साथियों, मुझे खुशी है कि आज हमारे देश में कई सारी स्टार्टअप टीम भी पर्यावरण को बढ़ावा देने के लिए ऐसे प्रयासों से जुड़ रही है। ई कॉन्शियस नाम की एक टीम है जो प्लास्टिक वेस्ट का उपयोग इको फ्रेंडली प्रोडक्ट्स बनाने में कर रही है। इसका आइडिया उन्हें हमारे पर्यटन स्थलों, विशेषकर पहाड़ी इलाकों में फैले कचरे को देख करके आया। ऐसे ही लोगों की एक और टीम ने इको कारी नाम से स्टार्टअप शुरू किया है। ये प्लास्टिक वेस्ट से अलग अलग खूबसूरत चीजें बनाते हैं। साथियों, टॉय रिसाइकलिंग भी ऐसा ही एक और क्षेत्र है जिसमें हम मिलकर काम कर सकते हैं।
The second round of India-Singapore Ministerial Roundtable will take place in Singapore on Monday. The Indian ministers participating in the event include Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman, External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar, Commerce Minister Piyush Goyal and Railways Minister Ashwini Vaishnav. During their visit, the ministers will interact with their counterparts and will also call on the Singaporean leadership. India-Singapore Ministerial Roundtable is a unique mechanism established to set a new agenda for India-Singapore bilateral relations. Meeting aims to enable both sides to review various aspects of the strategic partnership and identify new avenues to further elevate and broaden it. India's Minister for Commerce and Industry, Piyush Goyal, met with the CEO of Infrastructure at Global Asset Manager, Cindy Lim, and Executive Vice President and Head of Asia Pacific of Pension Fund, OMERS, Ashish Goyal in Singapore. On social media platform X, Piyush Goyal stated that India is an attractive investment destination and invited them to be a part of India's development journey. Well, conditions are improving in India's northeastern state of Tripura with no reports of rainfall from any area. But in contrast, catastrophic floods are worsening in Bangladesh, Indonesia and Thailand. Additionally, fires have caused widespread destruction in several cities in Brazil's Sao Paulo state. DD India's Rahul Upadhyay brings us more.
Relief and rescue operation by the National Disaster Response Force continue in India's northeastern state of Tripura after floods and landslides triggered by heavy rains displaced more than 65,000 people. There are 11 battalions of the NDRF carrying out rescue and relief operation on South Tripura and Sepaijala districts, which have been severely affected due to floods. In neighbouring Bangladesh, at least 18 people have been killed and millions stranded as floods caused by monsoon rains inundated parts of eastern part of country, triggering mass evacuations. Road connectivity in several regions were severed, isolating communities and hampering relief efforts. According to local authorities, over 3 million people have been stranded as of Sunday.
থাকতাম আমার ফ্যামিলি নিয়ে
I used to live in this mud hut with my family. Strong current of flood destroyed the house. So I sent my family to a shelter and I am guarding the household. There is no way of living in here anymore.
In Thailand, 13 people were confirmed dead following a landslide in Phuket. The landslide, triggered by heavy rains from Thursday night into Friday, occurred behind the Big Buddha, a popular tourist attraction. Search and rescue operations have concluded and will be followed by a major cleanup. In Indonesia's North Maluku province, 13 people were killed and 2 injured on Sunday after floods hit the east of the sprawling archipelago. Besides floods, fire too have wreaked havoc in many parts of the world. Fires have put dozens of cities in Brazil's Sao Paulo state under alert, consuming farming fields and clocking cities under smoke. In Dumont, one local farmer said he could not do anything to save his crops. The fire was too strong.
These terrible fires have been very difficult for us. It's out of control. The firefighters cannot handle it and we just observe the situation unable to do much. It's sad that we cannot do anything.
17 cities had been facing active wildfires. In total, the local government monitored 36 cities that were under maximum alert due to drought and a heat wave hitting the state. Rahul Upadhyay's report for DD India.
Still to come on DD India News Hour. Indians gear up to celebrate Hindu festival Janmashtami, marking the birthday of Lord Krishna on Monday. And an exclusive interview with India's ace para badminton player Manasi Joshi. Bangladesh Nationalist Party or BNP Secretary General Mirza Fakhrul Islam Alamgir has sought a clear roadmap from the interim government for conducting national elections as soon as possible. Speaking at a discussion in Dhaka on Saturday, he expressed satisfaction that the interim government led by Professor Yunus has not yet engaged in substantive dialogue with political parties or implemented noticeable changes in key areas, including the bureaucracy. He said BNP believes elections are crucial as the ultimate authority to govern the country must come through an elected parliament. The holy city of Mathura, the birthplace of Lord Krishna, is fully adorned and prepared for the grand and historic festival of Janmashtami. This year, extensive preparations have been made to make the celebration of the deity's birthday even more special and memorable. Krishna temples throughout the city have been illuminated with colorful lights in honor of the auspicious occasion. India's President Draupadi Murmu has extended her greetings on the eve of Janmashtami. President in a message said, "On the auspicious occasion of Janmashtami, I extend my warm greetings and best wishes to all my fellow citizens and Indians living abroad. On the day of Janmashtami, we worship Bhagwan Shri Krishna. This festival of joy inspires us to dedicate ourselves to the divine ideals of Bhagwan Shri Krishna. Srimad Bhagavad Gita, the dialogue between Shri Krishna and Arjun, is an eternal source of inspiration and enlightenment for the entire humanity. On this occasion, let us imbibe the teachings of Bhagwan Shri Krishna and resolve to work for the progress and prosperity of the country." You're watching DD India News Hour. Time now for all the sports action. A bunch of over 20 Indian para-athletes departed for the Paris Paralympics from the Delhi airport on Sunday. Various reputed para-athletes such as table tennis stars Bhavina Patel and Sonalben Patel, para-badminton players Manoj Sarkar, Manisha Ramdas and gold medalist Krishna Nagar, and para-athletes Sachin Sarje Rao Khilari and Sakshi Kasana, among others, were at the airport to catch their flight to Paris. The Paris Paralympics will start from the 28th of August. India has sent their largest ever contingent of 84 athletes that will participate in 12 disciplines. India's Sports Minister Dr. Mansukh Mandavia on Sunday urged countrymen to encourage athletes who will participate in the Paris Paralympics. Take a listen.
पेरिस पैरालंपिक्स शुरू हो रहा है। भारत के अभी तक के सबसे बड़ा दल 84 पैरा जाबाज जो पैरालंपिक में अपना दमखम दिखाएंगे। वक्त है उन्हें प्रेरित करने का, उनका आत्मविश्वास बढ़ाने का। तो इस पैरालंपिक में बढ़ाए उनका हौसला और लगाए नारा चीयर फॉर भारत।
Indian para-badminton player Mansi Joshi is upbeat about her chances for the Paralympics. Set to appear in her maiden Paralympics, she is confident and thanked the Indian government's support in uplifting para-sports in the country in an exclusive interview with DD India's Abhishek.
So call her an engineer or an advocate for the rights for people with disabilities or a world champion. We have with us Indian para-badminton player Mansi Joshi with us. Mansi, this time we have a large contingent of Indian para-athletes going to the Paralympics. So how do you see this?
I feel honored. I feel like everybody is going together this time, so it's like almost a half of a flight together. It will be great. I think it will be fun.
How's your preparations in particular for this?
My preparations have been at the top. I've been working very hard for this game since last 1.5 years. Asian Games, World Championship all together. So satisfied with my preparation.
You have been an advocate of for the rights of people with disabilities. So how important is to support this cause?
I think para-sports or Paralympics as an event, a multi-sport event, opens up a lot of opportunities and doors for people with disabilities. And this is because this is a multi-sport event, many people will, and all eyes are on para-sports right now. So I think it creates a lot of awareness, a change in mindset of people, and especially in a country like India where we see women, for parents of girl child who have been very protective of especially people with disabilities, I feel it's an opportunity for everyone to go out and play a sport, be fit, and I think being a person with disability, being physically fit is our first priority.
Last question, how do you see the support of government and Swayam India, that is the accessibility partner?
I think Swayam India is doing a great job. In terms of government support, it has been incredible. I would like to thank Sports Authority of India, Prime Minister Narendra Modi, Paralympic Committee of India, and actually everyone for the support.
From losing a leg in a fatal accident to becoming an inspiration for all para-athletes, Mansi Joshi's journey is nothing less than a roller coaster ride. At Paris, her eyes will be set on a gold medal. With cameraman Uttam, Abhishek Prasad for DD India.
Bangladesh beat Pakistan by 10 wickets in the first test in Rawalpindi on Sunday to secure their first victory in 5-day cricket over the home team in 14 tests. Bangladesh led by 117 runs in the first innings and dismissed Pakistan for 146 on the 5th day, chasing down their 30-run target without loss. Openers Zakir Hassan and Shadman Islam needed just 6.3 overs to secure Bangladesh's historic win. Pakistan's batters were largely ineffective against the Bangladeshi spinners, with Mohammad Rizwan top scoring with 51 in the second innings. Mehdi Hassan Miraz took 4 by 21 and Shakib Al Hassan secured 3 by 44. Bangladesh led the two-match series 1-0 with the final test starting in Rawalpindi from 30th August. That's it in this edition of DD India News Hour, but do share your thoughts with us on the news of the day. For those on the go, you can get all the latest news and updates from India and across the world on the DD India mobile app. The app is available now on Android as well as iOS platforms. You can scan the QR code on the screen to download now. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Anun Bhattacharya from all of us here in Delhi. Thanks for watching DD India News Hour. Namaskar.